Okay, we've got some question cards going around. I want you to think about something, though. You've heard the term talk to your legislators mentioned a couple of times. In 2011, legislature passed a law that septic tanks had to be inspected every 5 years. 2012, they passed a law repealing the 2011 law. Okay, we got some people in Tallahassee, Washington, D.C. that probably need to take up some other career. Also, in the back of the room, we've got Ross Rowlandson, the video camera. We hope to have this on our website in the near future. And I'm going to be asking both of our presenters today to send us, Judy or myself, their presentation, and we'll get a lot of the stuff that you were looking at on these slides on the website, CWC at irc.org. Okay, Judy and Mark are down there scouring over the, are you ready?
Shall I fire away?
Fire away.
Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. Roxanne, this one's for you. For septic systems, we've only heard about nutrient reductions. What about virus, bacteria, and pharmaceuticals in the wastewater?
So I can answer some of those, and some of those are ongoing. So as far as viruses and things like that, depending on the treatment technology you have, depending on the dispersal technology you have, or disinfection, you can typically deal with the pathogens. There hasn't been a lot of research. I just came from a national conference, a lot of research on pharmaceuticals. And the two things I hear is, A, we never really thought about it, or B, sometimes can we test for everything that's out there? So I think where you're going to see people go is they are going to start testing for the pharmaceuticals. Some of the earlier studies you see coming out of, I believe it's Colorado School of Mines in Minnesota, is that we have some attenuation of those pharmaceuticals in that soil element, but then the challenge you would have is does attenuation also mean that we're going to break them down and put them into some kind of safe component before they end up in a waterway? Or are they just going to sort of stay in that soil component, and then at what point in time would they be released from that soil component? So that is something that our industry has sort of looked at and realized that we need to start looking into research. So if somebody has a university that a grad student's looking for that, we would certainly be interested in partnering with them.
Yeah. Vincent, this one's for you. You stated that the top 10 subdivision conversions to sewer would cost about $28 million. Is that cost include the homeowner's portion, or is that just the cost that the county would incur?
So that was the project cost to lay the stick of pipe. It does not include the septic tank abandonment and the connection from the house to the lateral, which can vary depending on the distance, several $1,000s. The Department of Health gets involved because they regulate currently the septic systems, and the abandonment goes through them, so a permit's required for that. But then the impact fee is in addition to that of $27.96. So hopefully with the septic to sewer, that was not included as part of the construction and the project costs, the soft costs for the engineering, the construction for the pipe, but then you have the other costs for the septic tank abandonment, and then the impact fee is on top of that.
Thank you.
All right, here's one that's a great goal. I want to hear you guys answer it. Why not set a state goal of eliminating 95% of septic systems by, say, 2030, in about 10 years?
Cost. I'll let Roxanne talk about this, but I mean, ultimately, some of these systems take a long time to come to fruition. So I've been working up in the Roseland area for a number of years. These things don't happen all the time. Certainly cost is an issue. I would agree with that. We want to look at the total cost of ownership as well as the expected useful life of that particular asset. And at the end of the day, sometimes there's funding mechanisms that may or may not be available. So when we're trying to do a septic to sewer system, we're trying to reduce the cost in some way, shape, or form. We have the commissioners that are set to do that. But at the end of the day, if you were to take, hypothetically, all the 30,000 septic systems at a cost of, say, $20,000 for the septic tank abandonment, the project cost, and the impact fee, right, you're looking at a $600 million endeavor. So we can pay for that by either reducing costs elsewhere, raising taxes or asking people to come with a lot of that money out of their pocket, which most people in this country are transient. This county are transient, not on obviously a lot of income, and certainly I boil it down to what I said initially is obviously cost. Yeah.
So the follow-up to that was, set the goal and then follow by annually escalating fees or fines.
All right, so I'm going to go on the first one, too. I'd like to weigh in, and then we could both, I think, weigh on the other. The other one that I'd like to say is Indian River Lagoon, your wastewater treatment plant does a nice job, the numbers he presented. If you look across the state, and I would encourage you to look up Randy Fine's committee report that he did back in 2019 session that looks at how much wastewater that has been released from plants that aren't doing as good a job. Tampa was a great example. The engineer from the city of Tampa said they have manhole covers in excess of the number of days of years that cave in because of wastewater infrastructure problems with old pipes. And so not every community does as well with their wastewater treatment plant. Not every community is as proactive as this community is. So that's also a challenge because it's not just about upgrading your plant. It's dealing with that aging infrastructure, and a lot of that aging infrastructure is 50 to 75 years old. You have some clay pipes out there. So that's part of it. As far as setting goals, I think it goes back to that 2010 discussion that we talked about. Every year, it comes back up about we're going to inspect on-site systems. And every year we have that discussion. Those 2.5 million homeowners call up their House member and their Senate member, and they say, I'm not really excited about that, and that goes down. And so I'm not sure how to tell you to address those concerns. We as an industry would certainly like to go out and look at some of those systems. We have some really old systems that have never been seen. And so we encourage communities to have those discussions, but I think it comes back to the financials, because what happens is if my inspector, my contractor goes out and looks at your system and something's wrong with it, that means you now have to fix it. And if you have to fix it, because we aren't funded the same way as Central Sewer is, you have to fix it with your own dollars. And a lot of folks feel like those dollars need to be spent on other life things. So I think that's a lot of it. I don't think anybody in the state would tell you they don't want clean water. I just think that everybody in the state would tell you we don't have a magic money tree.
Okay, I was going to read this question, but I'm not, because I'm going to ask my own question based on what you just said, because it got me thinking. We keep talking about fixing what we got, but what about isn't it true that the state of Florida still is allowing systems to be put in on homes that are contributing to the problem? I mean, I can understand it's going to cost a lot of money to fix what we got out there, but why are we continuing to put in systems that aren't working properly, that are adding to the problem we have?
No, I think that's a great question. We are. Right now, unless you're in one of those BMAP areas, you're in a countywide moratorium area where you can't put in a conventional on-site system. If they're not available, then we're typically going to put in an conventional on-site system, knowing that it's not going to treat nitrogen. Now, if you're in an area where you've got 5 acres and you've got great soil and you're not near a water body, that's different, and that's that. Let's not broad stroke. But I will tell you, one of the things that happened is I was involved in every one of the BMAP groups, and a lot of people were involved in those, and that was one of the things we were concerned about. And if you look at that language, the only thing that is enforceable now is those very small lots in those primary focus areas. Nobody was willing to make the big jump into, if you're going to come into the state of Florida, if you're going to come into an area that we've identified that has nitrogen reduction, and if you can't connect to on-site or connect to a municipality, you must, they don't like that word must, you must use a nitrogen reducing system. It's just not incentivized financially, and a lot of folks don't feel that they're part of the challenge. I flush it, my toilet is awesome, so therefore I'm not part of the challenge. And then as long as the law allows me to do something, I'm going to do the minimum.
So, yeah, I was going to,
Oh.
BMAP is the planning.
It's the
tool.
Basin Management Action Plan. So it's a tool, thank you, Mark. It's a tool in those mainly springs areas where they were talking about the loading rates. But what we see, Roxanne, I'm not in the springs area, why are you talking to me about that? What we see is nitrogen's a challenge everywhere in the state of Florida that we have a water body. It's not just in springs, but that was part of the Springs Initiative bill that was passed in 2016, and that took a couple of years to move forward.
Okay, this one, Roxanne, is for you. Brevard County's recently passed a moratorium that requires all new septic systems installed on the barrier island and within 50 meters of the lagoon system, including the tributaries, to reduce at least 65% of the nitrogen. So I know you don't work for Brevard County, but do you know how that moratorium is working?
It's being enforced, so I guess that part is working. We were part of the original. We helped with the rulemaking, and we sat through the meetings. And basically what they're telling you is you're going to use these NSF 245 systems, or you can use the INRB systems. And if you're going to build in those areas, they're going to take care of the nitrogen reduction on systems. And that is one of the things, and I think we're seeing, just in case anybody wants to, you can come visit us at the training center. We've had several groups out there, and you can look at that technology. And the reason I mention that is we've had more and more groups come out there to the training center because they're deciding they're going to develop county ordinances, much as this group did, that'll go ahead and put that mandate or that moratorium on conventional or legacy systems. And whether it's a repair or new construction, they'll move forward with that. But that's if you're going to build, you're going to follow the 245 or the INRB.
So then, as a follow-up, Vincent, has Indian River County considered a similar ordinance, and do you think it would make a difference?
To my knowledge, the county has not considered that ordinance yet, but that's certainly something that the board would probably take a look at and need to vote on and consider. The problem, though, is it doesn't address the existing systems, right? And so I'm going to have to push back a little bit and say, can anybody here tell me of the 2.4, 2.6 million septic tanks, how many advanced treatment units and or INRB systems are in place? Even though the technology's been around for a while, I heard. 12,000. So do the math between 12,000 and 2.6. So I think the question is not can what we do moving forward, which I think is a good thing, but that's only going to be the small items for areas such as like the city of Vero Beach that's 90+% developed, or certain parts of the county that we've identified to be able to maybe do centralized sewer system. And look, gravity's not on there. There's other systems, like Roxanne was saying, it's not one size fits all. So we're looking at vacuum systems. But at the end of the day, I think that's something that the Board of County Commissioners have to set as a policy issue. That's above my pay grade. And that's something that they would need to look at from a political battle, from a cost standpoint. Obviously, there's an election coming up next year that may or may not have influence on the type of votes. And at the end of the day, we need to make sure that we're talking to folks that are not represented here that may be on fixed income that might have to pay for those type of upgrades. And so, there's a lot of, I think, varying factors, not to just evade the question, but to say that, yes, there's a lot of factors with respect to what the county is looking at in terms of trying to go after a holistic approach, not only for the existing systems, the new ones that are going to be in place, but the septic to sewer initiative that we're trying to enforce.
Vincent, this next question's for you too. Someone asked, it's still unclear about county's future plan for biosolid dumping. What will be done to eliminate it long term?
When you say eliminate, what does that mean? Okay, so in my mind, I'll answer the question. So, yes, the question of the question. So you don't ever remove anything, and a lot of people think that there's this magic pill that can make it go away. You're just transferring it from one medium to the other, okay? So in case of biosolids, the solids that are produced at whether or not it's an advanced treatment system, on the conventional system, on the step system, on a vacuum system, there's still solids that need to be handled. We here in the county, I think, do a pretty effective job with chemical dosing to separate the solids from the centrate. The centrate, again, is sent back to West Regional, but those solids have to go somewhere. So now you can do something. We can incinerate it, But then what happens to the air quality? We have EPA permits, we have Title V permits at the landfill, then you gotta do something with the filters. Can't go away. So you can use vapor compression distillation, you can try to capture the additional water content that's in those biosolids. But at the end of the day, we have a very competitive rate, and I talk to people out in the industry, and they ask me what the tip rate is for some of these things. They're looking at $40 and $50. Look at Okeechobee. Look at what they're doing in Orange County. Here in the county, we're fortunate to have a very low tip rate. So economically speaking, environmentally, we dewater that material. We send it up to the landfill with respect to our solids. That's about 8,000 tons a year. Not only what we're producing, which is about 50% from the regional wastewater plants, but all the other existing conventional and non-conventional systems that are out there in Indian River County. So for right now, we're not planning to do AA. We're not planning to do a land application. The only other option is to be able to landfill, and that's what we're trying to do.
I don't think this question was referring to what our county is
Okay.
doing. I think this was regarding biosolid dumping, like what was going on.
So I misunderstood the question. So
Yeah, there's
I
a
mean,
temporary
And so what
moratorium.
happened is the regulatory folks and all of their infinite wisdom said, hey, let's ban it down here. Well, okay, then it pushed up to the Lake Okeechobee watershed. But I talked about this in Roseland the other day. I have an article from the United Press. Okay, I can leave it for anybody here. And it says lakes are experiencing worse algal blooms. So let me guess what, folks? There's going to be more harmful algal blooms, not only in freshwater systems, but also throughout other parts of the state because of what? Eutrophication, high nutrient loading, and temperature. Temperature is the big thing. So Lake Okeechobee, which has had a ban now on the Class B biosolids application, has had decreasing water quality. So where's it coming from? Well, they're still doing AA, which again, we talked about, has no, after it receives that fertilizer designation, all bets are off in terms of where it's applied and how much. We have no idea. No idea. So that's a regulatory issue outside of my purview that needs to be addressed. But at the end of the day, the problem that we faced in 2017 was stuff that probably went to the Lake Okeechobee watershed that got pushed to Indian River County. Now that Indian River County has put a moratorium onto effect, it looks like Brevard County has done the same thing for certain applications, very, very certain applications. The DEP has acted quickly to try to have this task force to look at ways to do this. But they're in a box because they set the rules. And in my opinion, I'm probably stepping out here, I don't think there's enough that they're doing to be able to regulate it. And I'll use Governor DeSantis' words, use science. So we've pushed back and just said, hey, why not use the regulatory arm which allows them to require these landowners to do the testing to find out and validate what's going on. Create a report-only requirement on all those existing haulers and or the ones that have the permits to be able to capture the data to find out what's going on. St. John's River Water Management District had less than stellar data because they were not required to have any kind of data capture. So at the end of the day, I think we're looking at what's happening in the marketplace. Everybody says, oh, let's use technology, but you still have this medium where you're converting it from one to the other. And so my point is that, you know, we have the Janicki folks coming down to Palm Beach Atlantic University on the 25th to showcase what they've done. We've talked to them. They were on order of $40, $50, $60 a ton. We can put into our landfill for 19. Simple economics. I mean, you talk about the dollars and cents that are looking at these homeowners. We have to be fiscally prudent within our realm and trying to make sure that we have the highest level of customer service for the lowest possible cost. But at the end of the day, somebody has to bear that cost. Is it the utility? Is it the permit holder? Is it the taxpayers? And I think at the end of the day, it's a much bigger problem than everybody realizes.
Something to think about. I grew up here in Vera. We used to have a swimming pool over the beach called Tides Cabana. Some of you may remember it, kind of a semi-private pool. They had a sign there. Said, I don't swim in your toilet, so don't pee in my pool. Okay, that's what we're doing to our waters. That's what we're doing to the lagoon. That's what we're doing to the St. John's, to Blue Cypress Lake. So it's up to us, through our politicians, to get laws enacted that are going to help bring our water back to the quality it was when I was a kid, when many of y'all were growing up here as well, much like they've done, as Roxanne has said, up in the Chesapeake area. So with that, I want to thank everyone. Again, we're going to try to get this information onto our website, CWC-IRC.org, as soon as possible. You can also follow us on our Facebook page. We keep a lot of these current affairs on the Facebook page, and we'll be doing our next presentation after the first of the year. And I want to thank everyone. If anyone out there wishes to join as a partner, always welcome. You can go to our website again and You can do it online, really, really easy that way. And on behalf of Randy Old, our treasurer, before you go, we're a 501c3. While we don't go out and solicit funds, contributions are greatly accepted. So, Judy, anything else, ma'am? Mark? Okay, Randy? Thank you again. Very special thanks to our speakers.